Stand by for today's edition of Elections and COVID-19 Watch with senior journalist Leonard Gildarie and Dr. Yog Mahadeo.
It is now 13 hours 35 all across this beautiful country that we call Guyana. It has been an eventful weekend, and here to cover everything elections, everything COVID-19. Leonard, I think we need a different name for this show. Could it be still Elections Watch or not? However, that being said, this afternoon at the helm of the program, Mr. Leonard Gildarie, alongside his co-host, Dr. Mr. Uncle Yog Mahadeo.
Yoga, good afternoon. How you guys doing? All right. We're gonna depart from our normal, how you say it, road that we walked on in the last 5 months, and we're gonna do a couple of things differently. Like for today, for instance, the boys are dressed in something as a lady is dressed in red, and they wanted to have a twerking competition, but I said that is not really. I'm not sure how that works on radio, but yoga, it is what it is. It's August 3rd, 2020. It's 154 days. Guess what? You and I didn't sleep much for the weekend because it all happened yesterday. Guyana has a new president, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali. This morning, he turned up at the Ministry of the Presidency, met with the heads of department across the Attorney General chambers, and in Nandal as the returning as the Attorney General, a post that he held until 2015, would have been doing a walk around in that Ministry of Legal Affairs on Carmichael Street there. So we have much to discuss. There's a statement that has been issued from the Alliance for Change across the Guyana Chronicle. The editor in chief, we would have been talking about how abused the Guyana Chronicle was during this election time, a state-owned newspaper. We are going to talk about the elections petition, which the coalition says that it wants to file. And of course, one of the overlooked stories, Yog, in this entire period would have been, yesterday to today, would have been Claudette Singh. Want to have a discussion with her. So in the meantime, I want to say good day to all our wonderful people across this beautiful land of ours, wherever you join us from. We had a call this morning from all the way in Qatar, in the Middle East there, a gentleman would have called there, Mr. Derek Hawker. Good day to you, sir. If you're joining us, a good day to you. And of course, to our people down in New York, Toronto, Canada. How you guys doing over there? Along right across Guyana, Berbice, Essequibo, Demerara, all the regions. I want to say good day to you, because this happens to be it's decision time now. Elections watch is probably going to be over maybe later on this week, because there's some things elections that we want to bring to a close. And the handing over the transition period is what we're going to pay very keen attention to. Of course, let's not forget that Barjagdi is back, and this time he is the vice president. We will want to have a discussion on that. So let us get right into it. Dr. Yog Mahadeo, how are you, sir?
Very well, Leonard. It is at the end of month number 5, the start of month number 6. I wonder if GCOM is going to meet today and whether Mr. Lowenfield is going to present his report this afternoon. Oh, wait, the elections are done, over with. You have a new government in place, Leonard. So August month, I think, starts is a good start for democracy, and democracy prevails at the end of it all. And yes, Leonard, I would like to start with what you closed off with. That is, a lot of persons were extremely agonized and had a lot of opinions. And I'm not saying they were wrong, but everybody had their opinions about the chairman Claudette Singh of GCOM. I think we will go down in record as having had faith in her. I've stood by her side. You have stood by her side. We have really held on, had faith, and I think at the end of it, she did when it came down to the wire, and she did do what she had to do. So I would like to say, while today marks the first day one of the new government, I would like to say that big kudos, big salute, big hello to Madam Justice Claudette Singh for doing what she did. I know it would have been one of the toughest days of her life yesterday, Leonard. But she was prepared to do things, whatever she had to do to bring an end to this. So we're glad that we're here today. And I would also like to quickly say, Leonard, I know this is not what this show is about, but to God be the glory. And I have a firm faith in God, and I believe things happen at the right time when it ought to happen. And to God be the glory for all, and also for all the challenges we've been through. He's really tested us to see how we can live with each other, notwithstanding the hate and everything being spewed from all sides. But thank God we are here today. And finally, Leonard, I would just like to say hello to all my sisters, every single Guyanese lady and woman and daughter that fits into the shoes of my sister, young or old sister. But today is Raksha Bandhan, a day of bond between brothers and sisters. So I'd like to say a special Raksha Bandhan, Rakhi greetings to all of our sisters out there, and especially to my big sister, Justice Claudette Singh. So to all of our sisters out there, happy Raksha Bandhan Day, and may God bless you and keep you safe always.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Yog, and I would want to echo the same thing. I met lots, countless. I lose count some days. You guys would have to forgive me. I would have been receiving a lot of calls. I think it's the same thing for you, Yog. People were giving us tips. People were encouraging us. I think most of all, overwhelmingly, people would have been calling us and say keep it on, and we would have made it very clear this is not a political thing in which we are running for office or there's a political party that is a horse in the race that we would have had as a radio station, independent, is backed by a very respected newspaper, contrary to what a handful of persons would have tried to change it and try to make it a racial thing. We're not in for that. This is serious times. Our country is at stake here. The rule of law must prevail. And when it comes to doing our job, carrying out our mandate as the fourth stage, we are going to continue to do that. Nothing has changed. There's a new government in place, and while we will be looking very carefully at the transition period in which the government hands over, the previous government would hand over to officials who are coming in now to take the helm of power. We are not going to allow our feet to be taken off the gas pedal. We will continue to pay attention to the big things, of course, like COVID-19 and yoga. We probably have to look at the elections, watch COVID-19, because there's so many things, so many stories which would have slipped through the cracks over the last couple of months, 5 months. I can't believe that the time has flown so much, and a lot of persons, including myself, would have forgotten about what would have transpired before that, from December the 21st, 2018, when Guyana was shocked by that no confidence motion, fast forward to where we are at today. I think I have my own opinions as to the last couple months. I think it has been a rude awakening. It has been a kick to the chest of the Guyanese people as to what could happen, as to the extent where people could go. But we're not there. We're not going to talk too much about that today. We want to talk about healing. We want to talk about the way forward, that this is not a time, like we said yesterday, to be celebrating that we won and you lost. That is not where we're at. You could celebrate that maybe a party won, but it is not that you have personally won, because the country has lost. We've lost opportunity to arrest the COVID-19 situation. We've lost opportunity to pay more attention to our oil. A big thing that is going to surface in the coming months. How do we handle the oil situation? Our production, which started very late last year. So we have many things to discuss, but let us get right into it. What did President Irfan Ali do today, starting the day, August the 3rd, sworn in yesterday? Hours later, this morning, he met with the heads of the departments at the Ministry of the Presidency. So he started work during a brief address, and the pictures coming out now, which show that he is at the podium, and several heads of department there, as well as his Prime Minister, Mark Phillips. And this is a statement coming out from the Ministry of the Presidency. During a brief address to the staff, he said that it is his expectation that all members of staff will work together as a team for the benefit of every Guyanese. A release from the Ministry of the Presidency said. Ali said that the Ministry of the Presidency must lead by example and provide the best possible service to the Guyanese populace, even as he cautioned personally against acts of disunity and mistrust. The head of state told staff members that the full cabinet will be appointed by the end of the week, so the work of the new government can commence. And Yog, we could go back to the Cultural Center yesterday. Very quickly, they would have sworn in Irfan Ali as the new president. That's one. Two, he right away announced that he's going to make some appointments, and one, no surprise that Bajagde would have surfaced somewhere there, but the vice president, I think it is, that is something that I think he did mention it a couple months back when he came for an exclusive interview at the radio here. Question: where does Bajagde stand in this entire thing? Should you become president? And he says, if I had my way, I would ask Bajagde to become my vice president. Yesterday, when it was announced, I wasn't really surprised, because he had indicated he had his way. He is the president, and so Bajagde is there, very much in the cabinet. Then there's also the swearing in right away of the Attorney General, a very critical post. And it was no surprise there. Anand is back there. He was leading the fight when it comes to taking to the courts on behalf of his party. And then, of course, Gail Teixeira, never far away, lots of experience there within Parliament. And then, who else did I miss, Yog? Somebody else was sworn in. Of course, Mark Phillips. Can't forget that. So, that is what we know. This morning, also the AFC. Yog, did you have a look at the AFC statement?
Yes, I did. I did have a look at the AFC statement, and I did not, and I'm not going to read too much into any statement at this stage. Look, all of the political the APNO and AFC, the parties in that coalition, Leonard, their statements has to somehow or the other balance between their not wanting to accept to their followers that they lost the elections, and 2, conceding, and of course 3, political immaturity that continues to disgrace a lot of political personages. So, we lost the election, but, it's because of this and it's because of that, except none of them is saying what they did not do, what they failed to do during their watch as government of Guyana. But we will continue, I guess, over the next days and weeks and months, continue to assess the last government's performance and, of course, have it compared to current government performance, because we have to continue to hold their feet to the fire, Leonard. So I saw the AFC statement. I took it with a pinch of salt. I'm not going to read much into it at this stage. I'm not going to read much into the statements that the persons on their talk show are going to say at this stage. They got to balance between crying a little bit, and I mean that very, very maturely. I don't mean that in a sanctimonious way, because, whoever loses are going to feel in tears. I mean, when you lose a battle, you are in tears. And so they got to do that a little bit. At the same time, what I'm not seeing, and I'm happy that Granger's statement made a call for this, and that is calling on supporters and followers to be at peace and a little bit of reconciliatory approach. That is not coming out enough. In fact, that is only coming out from the PUP side. And that is sad.
Yes, and you're right, Yog. I don't understand. Maybe they're pandering to their supporters. What is important, I think, that we start pointing out now, that this damage that has been done to our society, that has been done to this country, and I'm not talking about the economy, the side of the economy. I'm talking here to our people in itself. And the use of ethnicity to drive it, because this is something that really, I couldn't believe that we would stoop this low, that instead of us talking issues, Yog Mahadeo is not capable of delivering on the economy because he lacked the experience. Let's talk about that. But instead we're talking you Corley here and me straight here and wherever we're coming from. These are issues that has to be grappled head on. And we have to find the perpetrators who've been pushing it. And guess what? Somebody said last evening, I think it was Sir Ronald Sanders, made it very clear that he's seen some very shocking thing coming from both sides of the divide. If we want to heal, let us stop this. Both sides, let us move this on to another level very, very quickly, because this is not something that our country needs to go forward. And Yog, I would like us to have a conversation sometime or the other, because it's not something that I feel comfortable with. Our executives, our CEOs, our directors of departments standing on the political platform. For instance, we had a director of sports that was there. Was he still the director of sports when he was spewing his stuff on whatever it is that he was spewing? I'm not sure. We had even the GWI CEO Mr. Van West Charles. He's an executive within a state-owned company on a political platform talking about what the coalition would have done after the elections. How do we have these things happening? These people are being paid state monies. And these are conversations that we're going to have. Of course, people are going to be very angry with us for even daring to bring it up, but these are conversations. Our tax dollars are being used to pay that. How come we have the Guyana Chronicle? You look at that across there. One newspaper, there was somebody would have to look back at that. Nigel Williams, as the editor-in-chief, would have walked away this morning because he knew that the hammer was going to come down on him. We cannot, Yog, be very, very civil about things like this. We have to take the bull by the horns, and we have to deal with the issue. Nigel Williams would have overseen as editor-in-chief. If he couldn't take the heat in the kitchen, walk and leave the job. Why would you do that to the entire country? This morning he has walked. Ganesh Mahipal, general manager, good friend of mine, a good person that I could probably talk to. But guess what? He would have been there as a general manager pushing his agenda and using state resources to do whatever he has to do. He would have to answer to. So these are not things that we are going to let slip very lightly because of the damage that would have been to this entire country. We'd have to deal with it right up front. We're going to have to talk, how do we reach across the divide? Some people are going to say that it is witch hunting. It's not witch hunting. It is making sure that our resources have been used or were used what they were supposed to do, especially Yog, when it comes, when so many of our people were starving, so many of people were begging for a little hamper here and there. This is something that has really, really upsetted me. This is something that has me, a man said this morning, you and I cry on the show. There's nothing wrong with crying. When you hear some of the stories coming out from the people calling into this show here, or reaching you on the road, calling you on the cell, you would have to cry because never in the world would you want any of your family or your children or your mother or your father to experience what those people would have been put through. And yet we see the wastage, the abuse of resources in such a blatant way. And these people are still sitting there. Yog, you there? So in the meantime, while we try to get back Yog, I think we are going to also tell you that this morning the President Irfan Ali would have met with staff as heads of department at the Ministry of the Presidency. They have taken... Yes, Yog, go right ahead.
Back to your point. Look, I would want to say that persons should have a little bit of integrity and decency. And if you if you were on the political platform, then there are certain positions you should not expect to hold when a government changes office. Now, what I rather suspect that would happen is that a lot of these people, as you know, remember we had a room 592, and I think it was Mr. Ram that said that somebody, I don't know if it was Mr. Duncan or who, but their contract would have been renewed at the Ministry of Public Security. I don't know what was the...
Don't beat around the bush, Yog. It is Sheriff Duncan. I understand that he has been given a contract which has gone several months ahead. Why is that important? He was sitting there in a state-appointed position, and then he was also on the road doing his propaganda work. Could you do that? Why didn't you resign? So you were receiving both sides. So these are things that we'd have to look at.
Correct. The other thing too, Leonard, is that, they have been paid using state funds. That is taxpayers' money. People in this country have paid them for the past months. Okay, the past months are gone. Why are you still there? Because I'll tell you why they're still there. This is where integrity, the test of integrity and honesty will now come up. Because now they're going to hold on to their contract and they're going to demand that a change of government pay them off their contracts. So the contracts was basically done in a lot of cases to facilitate the recipients of the contract from getting a hefty sum of money at the end of the contract. Because if you want them to leave the job, you got to pay them off. You got to terminate their contract by paying them the full contract value. So, I find it strange, Leonard, because this is how you evaluate. And this is why you remember some time ago, I objected to the use of leaders, the word leaders, because there are leaders and there wannabe leaders, and there are people who ought to be leaders but are not really leaders. They're head of their organizations, yes. So I find it strange, as you rightly put, the director of sports and head I don't know what's the name of the contract, the position of the contract in the public security ministry, and of course Mr. Mahipal, as when you had him on the show a couple of months ago, the man was already he may have already been on the job as GM of Chronicle, but he never said so. And so I find it strange that they would still, day one of a new government, and you're still there doing what? I think they need to do the decent thing and walk, Leonard. They cannot expect to be ripping off the taxpayers going forward.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
I didn't get that.
My apologies there. I think Alexa has somehow invaded our privacy here on the radio station. In the meantime, let me tell you what is happening. Yog, this thing, I can't just get over it. You're right. What is the correct thing? What is the right thing? What is a decent thing to do? If you have been there and you are responsible for the divisive politics that you would have played, do the right thing and walk. Nigel Williams, as the editor-in-chief of Chronicle, has walked. Let's come back to Claudette Singh, Yog. Yesterday was a very, very strange day, almost surreal. We woke up in the morning knowing there was going to be a key meeting after the Court of Appeal ruling. It was very clear that nobody was interested. None of the lawyers was interested in heading to the Caribbean Court of Justice. And I told you last week that I would have loved to see who was going to go there and what would have been the response of the judges there with regards to any court case that was filed, because the court had ruled very, very clearly in that case a couple of weeks back. I think it's the Davis case, and what his instructions were to Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield. A couple of weeks later, you're going back and ask them. I wanted to see who had the cojones to actually go back to the Caribbean Court of Justice and what would have been the response of the court. So yesterday, that started at 10 o'clock. Then three commissioners came out, told media, look, we made a proposal for the president and the opposition leader, Jagdit, to have conversation. That was a proposal. Claudette Singh took that and says, okay, she made a call according to the reports. To both of them, they agreed to have a talk. Jagdit says, I can't have a talk to you about the political situation until after declaration is made. The president agreed that GCOM also had the power to handle the election matters. It went back, and that is where I think somewhere along the line I was lost. Keith Lowenfield turned up, first of all, without the declarations. Is that your information, Yog? And then he probably went back and bring it back?
I don't know, Leonard. We are still awaiting some confirmation of what internal matters happened. What I found strange was you didn't see three commissioners of the APNU AFC talk to the media, did you, Leonard? I was just trying to get my notes in order here. I think I only saw two of the APNU AFC commissioners meeting with the media to tell them that they have walked out of that early morning meeting of GCOM. Because in there, according to what and ladies and gentlemen, it's important that we relate some of these things, because the commissioners of GCOM took a political position within GCOM. So in other words, the commissioners said, well, you invited us here to discuss the way forward. We think the way forward is for you to summon a meeting between Granger and Jagdeo, and we're done. And so they walked out. That's the way forward for them. Leonard, the way forward for the commissioners and for GCOM was to declare these elections. That's what their mandate is under the elections laws. That's what they signed up for. They didn't sign up to be to have what you call it mediation and arbitration and all of that. They signed up to do something and they did not, and they abdicated their responsibility and was proud to tell the nation of that. I hold some of these things very strong, because if you take a job or resign from it. So that's one. Two, I don't know what Mr. Lowenfield did, but eventually he did what he had to do. He produced a report. Now, Lowenfield also, and I rather suspect, I mean, these things, to the last moment,
Yes.
they have all kinds of things. So Lowenfield's report, the first paragraph, right, the first two paragraphs, was out of place, totally out of his job description as chief elections officer. He just did what he wanted to do to make sure that, you know what, I'm going to give you the certificate you require, but here are some kicks and some spits and some slaps on you for it. So he decided that he is now going to do his job. He is going to take a political side. And Lowenfield didn't realize, Leonard, Lowenfield's last report to the commission showed his political bias. It is a statement that is as a clear invitation to litigation than anything else. It is a clear invitation to charges, to say I am taking a political position because here is what I have to tell you. So those are the things I found very annoying as of yesterday. But you know what? Cooler heads prevailed, and the chairman did what she had to do. The chairman did not just stop with issuing a declaration. She went further. She formally, and you know one thing I liked about it, Leonard, Claudia Singh did not leave it to communication that, okay, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call the chancellor, and maybe somebody transmit that phone call to her in certain way if she was not at the end of the line and stuff like that. She wrote. And when she wrote, it was released. So that the transmittal of those letters and those declarations was made public. And I think the way that those hours, hindsight is not necessarily a phrase that I would want to use now, but in reflection, had Madam Claudia Singh adopted that same approach for over 100 days, Leonard, we might have probably gotten this behind us a long time ago. But you know what? We are here. But I thought I would mention that because what the gentleman did up to yesterday midday, Leonard, was to continue to hold his country at ransom.
Yes, and he had a good part in shot there, which would bring us to the next question, Yog. Where does this leave Lowenfield? Because it is obvious, while he might very well argue that, look, every time I was ready to do the declaration, there's a court case, there were some missed opportunities, big opportunities for him to have done the right thing.
Sorry, my brother. Sorry
yes.
to interject, but let's correct that one thing.
Yes, sir.
No. When the Court of Appeal ordered him not to declare, he went ahead and he prepared a report, not a fraudulent report. So even that he doesn't have. So sorry, you can continue.
No. And you're right, Yog. We'd have to put these things because as we are in the early days, like I said before, as far as this newspaper is concerned, when I say this newspaper, Kaichor News, as well as Kaichor Radio, we have our mandate that is very, very clear. We're not political in that sense. No newspaper, no right-thinking media should be political in any way. What they should do is ensure that they report the news and, of course, report it as fairly as possible. We have invited, in fact, we are going to continue to reach out to the now opposition to ensure that they come and have their say down here because they need to do some explanations to the people of Guyana. Healing is going to take a very, very long time. We need answers. We need, of course, an audit into the Guyana Elections Commission. They're right that we're not going to forget about that $10 billion or whatever it is that they had to spend for elections 2020. That is not going to go away. And so the Auditor General has a lot of work to do. We would also... Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry, let me just raise back this thing. So in telling you just now that Mr. Lowenfield's last act of desperation speaks to him opening himself up in those two paragraphs of his final report. And by Lowenfield choosing to use the choosing to use the Mingo numbers, right? In his second to last report, he basically threw Mingo under the bus because at that stage everybody was willing to say, okay, Mingo is history, why Mingo again, and stuff like that. But he chose, he reinserted Mingo's numbers into the entire consideration of elections 2020. So a lot of things ahead. But Leonard, I want to just say this. Look, the elections are what they are. They're over and done with. But you and I both know, as everybody does, that the hard work really starts now. You are right. It's time for everybody who really care about this country to come and talk about how they care. I mean, look, yesterday I reached out to Mr. Kemad Ramjatan, and he immediately responded. Not that he didn't use to respond before, excuse me, but he's going to be in room 592 tonight.
Very good. I like that, Yog. I like that.
Yeah. So you know, we here in Elections Watch and in room 592, we're going to continue to do what we have to do too, in terms of bringing the dialogue to the table, asking persons for their opinion, and you know, I think as Brigadier Mark Phillips, Prime Minister now, Mark Phillips said, you know, when you survive, when you come to room 592, you're good, right? So we're going to continue to hold people's feet to the fire.
Yes, Yog, and so many other things. And don't let us forget Mr. Claremont Mingo. We understand he's at his job up in Berbice. I think Guyanese people are very interested to know how he came up with those numbers and where he got them from, on what basis, and whether he still have those things in his possession. What is he doing on the job? How is he living? How is the pressure hitting him there? We want to know. There's a lot of stories to be told, and I think it is our job to present those stories to the people so they could make their own conclusions. This is very serious business. We are not in the mood. I don't think that when I say we, the people of Guyana would not be in the mood to have a replay of this situation in the next 5 years, Yog. We would want right.
Yeah.
We want this administration or whoever the authorities are, and in this case it's a GCOM, the Guyana Elections Commission. There's still a chairperson there, Claudette Singh, Justice retired Claudette Singh.
Let me ask you this question, if you don't mind, my brother. Are you sure that Mr. Claremont Mingo is still on the job?
We've been receiving a lot of calls from the West Berbice. If West Berbice is listening to us now, a good day to you folks. We want to hear. I understand there's a GCOM office there, and he has been going to his work as normal every single day. I'm not sure what work there is because GCOM is not in operation mode in terms of a countrywide thing right now. Or maybe you could correct me if not. But I understand that he's been going to his work, West Berbice.
Right. Sorry. If he's still on the job, he would have had to be reassigned, right? Because a returning officer's role is over and done with after the election day thing is after the declaration of his region would have been done. The reason I raise that because I would be interested, and Guyanese, of course, would be interested to know whether he is on the job under one title or another. And I'm glad you call on persons to inform us because we need to know. Because Mr. Mingo, I believe. Mr. Mingo would have been earning about $750,000 a month.
Could I apply for that position?
These people have been earning a lot of money. I mean, Mr. Lowenfield has been earning approximately $1.7 million a month. So those are the kind of monies that people were being paid to do what they did. And we got to find out because if they continue to be paid by the taxpayers, then one would expect to think that certainly Claudette Singh's job is not finished.
Well, let me tell you, sir, there's some very, I won't say simple thing, I would say very shocking because when the people start looking back at it, like there was some abuse, I think, that went on at GCOM. I'm not sure whether the chairperson is going to talk about it. But one of the things that we learned over, I think, very late last week was that they took away the Land Cruiser, a very nice Land Cruiser that is befitting of the office of the chairperson of GCOM. And they took it away and they gave it to Keith Lowenfield. Here the issue is there. Our chairperson, that is Justice retired Claudette Singh, was forced to use a private vehicle. You hear me? This is something that I confirmed back again this morning, Yog, that the GCOM chair, Justice Retired Claudette Singh, was forced to use a private vehicle while they took away the Land Cruiser that was given to her and they reassign it. Well, who would be doing that? There isn't anybody high in GCOM other than the chief elections officer, other than the chair. He is responsible for the operational side of things. So we're not sure how that happened that you would take away a vehicle that was. It isn't that it was there and then he decided to use it. It was being used by her, and she was forced to go back and forth to work every single day using her vehicle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Leonard, all of these, those are the reasons why you and I have called for a commission of inquiry into the Elections Commission, and we'll continue to garner the thoughts and opinions of those who join us in room 590 to ask what their opinion of that. But I was glad to see that, Sir Ron Saunders would have mentioned that, an investigation needs to be conducted into the Secretariat, into the Elections Commission, because those are the kind of things we need to, probably put behind us, but put behind us knowing what was the truth. Also, ladies and gentlemen, it is interesting. I've not seen it before, Leonard. Maybe from a newspaper perspective, we'd have to check it out. But the Attorney General, the Auditor General, after the completion of any election, he has to, or he ought to be auditing the entire elections and the cost and all the figures and everything, and it ought to be made public. At least it's a report that is tabled to Parliament, but that makes it public as well, Leonard. So those are the kind of things that I think we'd be very interested to see what has happened with those $8 billion for this election.
Yes, that is something that is not going to go away. We intend to have a look very closely at that. We want to know how the monies were spent. We want documents to be produced, or rather, there must be evidence which state that the contracts that were issued, maybe if you've got a flight to the interior and you're using the local airlines and so on, the local air operation services, how did they get chosen? Let's say Roraima got chosen over ASL. All these things are very, very important. Did we get value for our dollars? How did you go about buying your pliers if you had to buy pliers? Because we know that the last time pliers that could be bought, maybe $1,000 were bought about 6,000-7,000, and they bought several thousands of this yoke. So those are some of the sinful things, some of the most egregious things that were done by GCOM leading up to the 2015
contracts, right? And who gets the contracts, because they're multi-million-dollar contracts. All of those things need to be made public. Leonard, I just want to go back to something that you shared at the top of the program when we were talking about the swearing-in ceremony yesterday. And I think, let's use this opportunity as well to say congratulations to President Dr. Irfan Ali. I echo your sentiment there, my brother. From Elections Watch and COVID Watch, yes, congratulations to him and his the members that he named. I must say, and this is not being critical at all, I must say that at the very least I expected that among the first set of appointees yesterday, that he would have named also a health minister, for the simple reason of COVID-19, which is the biggest thing facing this country at this stage. But that being said, he did promise that very early this week, he is going to name his full cabinet. So let's wait and see. But health is obviously then going to be way up there as to how we're going to rise up above COVID-19. It's affecting us like crazy at this moment.
Yes, and let me tell you this. I believe there is going to be money flowing. Let me tell you why. All those money that was locked up, and so I think Parliament is going to be convened in a very short while. But there's donor funding and among other things which were held back because of the political situation that had developed. I think all of those are going to think. And then, of course, don't forget the investors. We have our local businesses, and so a lot of people were holding back monies. They were very unsure as to whether they should go ahead with the building of this property. The banks, even the banks. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen.
Well, Leonard, let me just share this with viewers and listeners, because remember, you and I are on record reminding everybody that it is not going to be easy for the new government, whoever takes the government. We said this 3 months ago, 4 months ago, that it is not going to be easy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, one of the statements that we always take for granted, and you know, I'm sure that Leonard didn't mean it the way it sounded, but this is what I want to make sure we clear it up. So, for example, the oil funds. The oil funds will be ready and will be released to Guyana, I'm sure, but don't get it wrong. It is not for immediate public spending. Here's what I mean by that. The use of the sovereign wealth fund or the money from the oil is basically controlled by legislation. In other words, there is a sovereign wealth fund management in place that the new president, Leonard, has to immediately, that's another of his priorities. He has to put things in place to name the people, well, to ensure that the sovereign wealth fund managers get into place to manage this money well. Because remember, managing the money means also investing it so you can get returns because you can spend from the returns. So there are a lot of things, but the new government is not going to get it easy in terms of free flow of money. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of guts for them, because remember, Leonard, whatever decision they make is not going to please everybody. Mm-hmm. There are persons who are going to criticize it. Whoever they appoint is not going to please everybody. People are going to have problems with it. So they got to put their heads down and just get on with what they got to get on, and at the same time ensure that they maintain the decorum of respectability, honesty, and integrity in their decisions and in their expenditure of public funds, Leonard.
Assuming, Yoga, because this is a conversation I would like to see too, assuming that we get everything a little normalized a little, how soon could you do you believe that we could probably see a situation could be almost similar to pre-March 2nd? And although we might be still living with the COVID-19, well, March 2nd, pre-March 2nd, do you believe that could happen this year? Because this is an uphill task we're talking about.
It is an uphill task, but I'll tell you something, Leonard. For 100 days, I mean, every Guyanese, regardless of which side of the political divide we have been on, whether we are PNC, APNO, PPP, independent, whatever side we are on, we have been tremendously stressed, right? People have not been able, you're going to work, those of us who are working, but at work, 90% of your stress was because of the politics. 90% of the things we did was because of politics or not because of politics. So things were not happening. Look, the way that the government system is in a country affects the population. No two ways about it, especially a country like Guyana. Now that the elections are behind us, you can almost sense a fresh energy in the country. I mean, I've gone around a few places this morning, Leonard, and you sense energy in the country. And I'm not saying that is because PPP is in office or APNO is in office. I'm just saying democracy has prevailed. You have a legitimate government in place. It gives everybody a sense of wellness, a sense of let's move ahead now. That alone is half of the healing. The other half, of course, is how well and how energized the leaders, the new leaders, are going to be. And so this is why I said, you know, a health minister, I think a lot of persons are relieved to see Anil Nandlal as the Minister of Legal Affairs and Attorney General, because one of the quirky things that has happened here, Leonard, is Anil Nandlal now as Attorney General is now the respondent for some of those cases that might not have been heard under Basil Williams' time, right? So he is going to inherit a couple matters of legislation, things that are in front of the court, that he might not have agreed with when in opposition, right? He might, I don't know if he himself might have caused some litigation, I just don't know. But Anil Nandlal is not in an easy spot at this moment, right? Because he got to dance between the raindrops in terms of getting his job done. Because one thing I can say I know of him, he is going to do his job as an attorney general. And I certainly hope that I can continue to look up to him to say that, look, do your job first as an attorney general for Guyana and then as a member of the PPPC. And I'm hoping they can all do that to Leonard, because if we all put Guyana first, we're going to move on and on every single day.
All hands on deck. I think that's what we're going to be calling for. And as citizens, don't leave it up to Yog and Leonard alone to do it. It's all up to us. It's all up to you, your neighbors, everybody. If you're part of the church, let the leaders and everybody call. Let us move this country forward. We deserve it as a people to live the good life. And if you're really talking about living the good life, we have to take collective responsibility. Do not leave it to the government to do everything. Do not throw garbage over your back fence. Do not see people doing this stuff. If you have a new road, do not put sand on it. Do not mix sand on it, sand and cement on it. Do not throw garbage on the road. These are little things that we could do to make life a little better. But guess what? Continuously, because of our lifestyles, we would have a new road, and then you see a tractor and a trailer and a combine driving on it. How many times have we not seen heavy vehicles on the new road that we've gotten? And then the Ministry of Public Infrastructure is going to be quarreling. This is not something that is good. We're spending millions and millions of dollars. And of course, very quickly, I think Parliament should be meeting, because we have to pass a budget. We in the latter half of the year, and we have not been able to, all the ministries have been using 1/12 of the budget, and that's been putting a strain on them. So we need to have Parliament in a very short while, and for them to start moving in the presentation of a budget very quickly.
Yes, indeed. That would be an order of their priority, Leonard. There's so much things they got to do. And don't forget, the economy is in a backspin, right? We spoke about the availability of some funding for them, but the economy is in a backspin. So you got to now reverse the reverse spin and start getting it going forward. You got to, as you rightly point out, they got to reinstill investor confidence. They got to reinstill a lot of things. I mean, they got to relook at some of the laws. A lot of persons expect that, and you and I certainly going to hold them to their promises, aren't we? A lot of persons expect that some of those taxes, the tax burden is going to be eased up upon people, especially the pensioners. A lot of the things that has happened with electricity and water and telecommunication. A lot of persons expect that, for once and for all, let's put this telecommunication nightmare behind us and move on. There must be other companies that are ready to come into this country and to operate on a level playing field, Leonard. So a lot of eyes will be on this government. And on that note, I want to say to you, my brother, elections watch, right? So I know, ladies.
I knew that was going to come up. Go ahead.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll tell you this: I did not discuss this with Leonard and Kevin, my little son there. He always calls me uncle, but he's my little son. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have been running Elections Watch for the past 100-odd days, and I must tell you something. For me, Leonard, it has been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to do what I see as a call to duty. I've done this as my duty towards my country, to stand up for democracy. I do not hold a membership card for any political party, and certainly I do not look forward to doing that at this stage. Who knows later on how it's going to go, but I do not. I believe that all the work we do must be for our children, must be to hand the country over to our children, a country that they could be proud of their parents, So I've done all of this, Leonard, and as you know, ladies and gentlemen, I've given my duties here as my kind contribution. This has all been part of my contribution here. I've not charged anybody a cent. I'm not employed by anybody, and so this is why I've said at every show, my opinions are absolutely my own, and Kaieteur News, Kaieteur Radio should not be held liable for my opinion. That being said, though, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that I will decide, and I have decided that I'm going to say goodbye to Elections Watch. And Leonard, we're going to continue our Room 592, of course, and we're going to go back to the format that we initially thought. It must be educational, it must be national interest, it must have the kind of discussion we wanted to have. And so, for example, in Room 592 tonight, we're going to engage Mr. Kemra Dramjatan, we're going to engage Mr. Tony Estefan, we're going to engage a few other persons in our Room 592 to get their reaction. We're going to engage Mr. Paul Tennessee to get his reaction as to the swearing in of the government. Tomorrow, we're going to have some youngsters. Tomorrow night, we're going to have some youngsters in room 592 to discuss what they envisage the new government should do. And Wednesday night, we're hoping to get Mr. Freddie Kissoon. So my work will continue in room 592, my brother. I'm sorry to be springing this on you, but you know, we gotta see what we gotta do.
Well, we could probably could we do it? At least we could promise the people do it a couple more days during this week. I'm almost tearing up here because let me tell you something. It has indeed been an awakening experience for me, Yog. Radio was something I was helping out with until March the 2nd. I thought until we could get the right people to basically do what they got to do, so I could go back to what I know best, which is writing. But the connections, I'm not sure whether I would have learned a lot. I can tell you I'm a little more confident on radio now, but meeting the people, seeing how they would have reached out to us, Yog, is something that, you know, has warmed my heart, and it has really. I had intentions, to be honest, to migrate sometime or the other. That is in process. I placed everything on a hold because I do believe that this country has a lot to offer. I think my heart is to stay right here, to do what I have to do for my little country. Maybe we could do it a couple more days, and then I know that we've asked you a lot to be with us over the last couple months. 5 months, it's not an easy time. We've been in it almost every single day. 1-2 weekends we missed, but yesterday, for example, was one day that we could not miss, and we were there. It is because when you see that people had a need, and when we saw right across the world, people were basically tuning in because they wanted to have something, to hear something. It meant that there's that room for those kind of programs. I think as far as the radio is concerned, Glenn has told me that he wants to see it evolve into a community kind of program that people could be able to express themselves, that they could be able to call in and say, look, this is what's happening in my community. And I think he's given his okay for that. So we are going to have to dig deep within, whether it's Gildarie or not. It's something to be looked at, but we want to expand it and give the people more access to the radio, maybe more lines, so they could tell us what is happening in their community. They could probably make recommendations that we could probably put it to the government too during our engagements with them at the various media conferences and so on. So it is something, it's a work in progress. We're not perfect. It's a new radio. And of course, we could not have done this without Yog. Gildarie is just tag-along kind of person. I really learned a lot. This is not in any way sucking up to you, sir, but it is a fact. Gildarie has learned a lot. It has been a pleasure to talk to the people, to engage with the people. So many things I've learned, things that I didn't know before. If there's one thing I learned, I think above all, was about the Constitution. So many things we pushed the Constitution to the limits. We've tested even a single word as to fit and proper. Those are the kind of things that we would have really started looking at the Constitution in an entire different way. So yes, and the Constitution, when it comes back to what is valid, what is not valid, the insertion of valid, all of those things we've been taught a lot as to how the courts operate. So all in all, I'm thinking that maybe it wasn't such a bad time. Maybe we've become a much stronger people because of what would have transpired. Should I say thank you very much to the coalition? I'm not sure, but I think the people of Guyana have sworn to themselves never again to allow anybody to do what would have been done to the people of Guyana over the last couple months. I think as a newspaper, the biggest thing, what I'm talking here specifically, is the abuse of the law, the abuse of the courts, the abuse of our resources, the abuse of our institutions. Those are things that we take very seriously. We are very serious about how our resources are being used, because these resources could be put or to be used to help our very poor people, the vulnerables in society, as I call them. And so, Yog, it is something to think about. But I don't want to thank you very much for that. And maybe we
Yes,
have maybe a two
thank.
more days. We have maybe a 2 more days because
Yes.
we're gonna have to look at the transition period. I think maybe who they're gonna
Well,
call
Lawrence,
it.
I'm who's in charge of transition.
I know, I know, I know. But
So,
it is.
Leonard, but let me just say this as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Room 592 has been my baby, and so I'm gonna probably stick with Room 592 for a little while more until my baby can see her way into the world and find somebody good who we can hand that over to. But I'm proud of what we have achieved in Room 592, Leonard, and I'm proud. Room 592 in the nights has gone international. I mean, people from all over the world has been calling us. We have taken discussion at a different level. We have taken national issues to a different level. For the first time in Guyana, we have really started to have that kind of discussion at that level that involves not just people local to Guyana here, but people from all over the world. And so, certainly that is, we're going to look forward to continuing that at a different level, of course. So indeed that will happen, Leonard, and I'm looking that, ladies and gentlemen, when we started Room 592, one of the things that we had planned was to have discussion on our natural resources and to have discussion on the effect on our natural resources by exploiting those natural resources. So, for example, what's happening with the environment. Those are the kind of discussion I'm eager for us to come back to. I'm eager for us to have a talk with our lawyers about the law and you. What are the things you need to know about the law for your everyday living? And let's put politics with the politicians and keep a watch on them to ensure they do the good job. And certainly that will continue, Leonard. But change has to happen. There's a change in Guyana, change in government, and we gotta make changes too. So Kevin, my friend, my son, I'll be saying bye bye to you from Elections Watch, right?
I think he's gone. I think he probably gone to the washroom to cry or something. But it is what it is. But so Yog, we are going to evolve this, but it has been a pleasure, and I want you to know that we're going to invite you from time to time, and I don't think there's any way that you could refuse because I am going to be with you in room 592. It might not be every night sometimes because it depends on my duties because I think they would be asking me to go back into newspaper. Glenn has been pretty good. Or I'm going to give you a break and you could look after the radio. But Kaito Radio has really, really grown tremendously. I think I told you this morning, we get calls from all over the world. Qatar called me this morning. And the guy says when he comes here, somebody called me yesterday, 250 miles out on the ocean. I'm not sure how they get Kaito Radio there. And it says, look, I'm coming in, I'm listening to you guys here. I'm up 250 miles fishing, and we listen to you guys here. And I want to bring some prawns to you. And I said, man, but that is some of the love that you would find coming from the people. And it really means a lot, but it is not about us. It is not about Gildarie. It's not about Yog. It's not even about Kaicho Radio. It's about the people
Correct.
of Guyana. It's about how could we uplift ourselves. Don't let us miss the point in this entire thing. How could we move this country very quickly? We have all the resources. We have the will. We have a brand new government in place, and the new government has to reach across the divide now, energize everybody. Let us put our hands to the wheel, hands on the deck, and get this ship moving. We cannot stay still. We cannot. We have too much things going. We have to deal with this COVID issue here. The borders are crying out. The Amerindian communities, the indigenous people communities in Region 9 are crying out. And Yog, we can't miss COVID-19. Guess what is happening? The number of cases is
Yes.
rising rapidly every single day. I think yesterday it's about 20 odd cases, new cases. When you
Correct.
look at it per capita, it is really, really worrisome. It is really, really bad. This thing, please, folks, you guys protect yourself. You have to. We're taking this thing in a very cavalier thing. This is not something that is happening by yoga or by Kaichur News or across the river. It's happening all across. Everybody is at risk for this. So all you got to do is wear your mask, ensure that you protect yourself, Last night I was doing something with Michael Rodriguez with the critic, and the people were very upset that I was without my mask. Yes, I apologize for that, but it is what it is. You have to ensure that you protect yourself going out in the public. Wear your mask, wash your hands, wear your mask, wash your hands. Let it become an anthem with you. Let it become a way of life. Our entire way of life has changed. COVID-19 is not going anywhere, yo. COVID-19 is not going anywhere. So, do we want to open the line, as we would say,
I
allow our
so,
people to say goodbye to what has been a very a big thing in terms of elections watch, um, uh, the people's voice? Do we do that?
well, I think we should open the lines, and I want to ask our people out there too that tomorrow night in room 592, Leonard, providing Kev and Joshua and Raj could set it up maybe. Tomorrow night in room 592, we're gonna have two or three of our younger persons join us to discuss, maybe in about half an hour to 40 minutes, discuss their views of the new government. I'm not gonna make it, you and I are not gonna make it a lot of guests, but what I would like to do is have a half-hour call-in to room 592 to have people's view of the new government. That's for tomorrow night, not tonight, tomorrow, Tuesday. But certainly today, Leonard, I think we should go to the lines and have people express their views, because certainly, ladies and gentlemen, we gotta now have maybe change it to a democracy watch or transition watch for the next week or two. And Leonard, of course, you will have the ship all by yourself, sir.
You have me tearing up there again. You can't do that. But somebody is saying we need to bring on back Freddie in room 592. Freddie was making some bets and making some predictions, and so we need to bring him on. I would love to see his face with when I said, but you said this a couple of weeks back, and I think your predictions, which crystal ball were you peering into? So maybe we need
Yeah.
to bring him. I just want to see his face, or maybe listen to him.
Yeah, we're hoping to have Freddie for Wednesday coming, day after tomorrow.
Very good. I look forward to that. But in the meantime, let us get right down to it. If you've joined us now this morning, the new president, Dr. Irfan Ali, has hit the road running. He has met with staffers, heads of department at the Ministry of the Presidency there. Across at the Attorney General office, Anand Nandlal would have started working toward the offices, meeting with the staffers. We're not very clear if he would have met with former Attorney General Bassel Williams. If they were, there are no pictures or videos, but I think the people of Guyana, Yog aside, would have loved to see what that meeting would have been like, what they would have maybe if you could hear what they would have said to each other, but that's aside from that. Also, you would have heard that the AFC would have issued a statement, does not agree with the figures, but they're saying that they've virtually conceded there. Nigel Williams, editor-in-chief of the Guyana Chronicle, has left his work. He's walked. He says that he has a couple more days for his contract. He has no intentions of renewing it, and so he's left there. Chronicle, as you know, would have been one of the state organizations, state entities, state newspaper that was under severe criticisms because of the abuse that took place there in favor of the coalition, without any news being twisted, narratives being changed, and being accommodated there. And we're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to say it as it is. With regards to the elections petition, so far we have not seen anything. Maybe, Yog, we talk about that sometime or the other. If an election petitions is filed, then there may be a call for those missing SOPs that is in the hands of the Guyana Elections Commission for it to be produced to the court as part of the evidence. So it's interesting. In the meantime, also, Claudette Singh, we'd have to examine the role. Tremendous pressure would have been placed on her. She was a woman who was criticized, vilified, even had a coffin, a mock funeral for her. What kind of pressure would she have been under? We'd have to talk to her sometime, have a one-on-one on her, but I'm sure that it would not have been an easy time. She held the country's future in her hands, and at the moment when there was an opportunity, she made the decision, she made a declaration It was after several court cases, more than a dozen court cases, and from more than 5 months almost to the date since the March 2nd elections. So if you're joining us, this is the last edition of Elections and COVID-19 Watch here. It's been 5 months. It's been such a deep pleasure for myself, Leonard Gildarie, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, all thanks to Mr. Glenn Lal and the management, Tishana Lal of Kaicho Radio, and of course with the blessings of my buddies, my sisters down at Kaicho News. Yog, and let me take this opportunity before we head to the lines. I've seen some young people come up in the last 5 months. We have some good people in Guyana here. We just need to train them or give them the opportunity. And I've seen some young people who has really risen to the job. Demands were made of them, very green in the beginning, but they have really risen and taken this job seriously, and they have brought the news to the people, to the Kemal Kings, to the Michaela Prince, to the Shakima Day. Of course, we go across to Rihanna Ramsey. We had a brand new, we struggled because we had a few staffers that left, and of course, we had some spinners, some people who were talking narratives, said it was because Kaicher News went in a direction where Mr. Lal does not like anything that went against the PPP. Totally madness. If you know Mr. Lal, in fact, for the department, I'm the only Indian there. Yog, imagine that? I'm the only Indian there. So it was madness. I mean, we had a couple people retiring, and they used the race card along the way. But thank you very much there, Mr. Lal. And, of course, kudos to the young upcoming reporters. Keep it up. Keep your head straight. And do what you have to do. You have a very serious mandate. And, of course, 226-7453, 226-7453. Yes, Yo, go ahead.
Just share this with everyone. Meanwhile, we are going to open our lines for calls. We have had a number of statements, and this new government would have already started to receive a lot of congratulations from different places, different parts of the world. I found a very strange statement made by Senator Roxanne J. Prasad from the USA. I'm not even going to read it, but a statement was made. And I think of more recent, we would have seen a statement from the White House that read as follows, that the United States congratulates newly inaugurated President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali and the Guyanese people on their long overdue election in which democracy and transparency prevailed. We look forward to a strengthening of the U.S. relationship with Guyana. So that tweet would have been made from the White House an hour ago or more. And that is certainly speaking from the top levels of the U.S. government. It speaks to people having had a keen look, ongoing look at what's happening there. And as soon as a change is happening, then they make their voice heard. And in this case, it was a positive voice.
Yes, thank you very much, dear Yog, and you are going to see more and more of that. I think we'd love to have an interview with all the diplomats. I think we are going to make attempts to bring them on because obviously they would have played a role. Is this a state where we would have wanted to? Why couldn't our system work in which we don't have to ask anybody, but have faith in the systems that are there, that's already established, that are there in the law and everything? But no, we had to bring ourselves to a state because there was an attempt, a naked attempt at a power grab that was totally in contradiction to what the will of the people would have said, according to the March 2nd votes. But it's 226-7453. Yes.
Our viewers and listeners, thank you all. We could not have done what we did here without you and without your suggestions and your contributions and your comments, good and bad. We've had some blows. We have had some people hit out at us, and it's all in good faith. We have accepted it all. We corrected where we ought to. I'd like to reach out and say a special hello to Mr. Clement in Kanji, 88 years old young man who listens to us every single day and every single night, to our brothers and sisters, to the Essequibo Eagles team in Essequibo. young men that they're doing their job but listening to this radio every day, especially Rakesh Rambali and his family. Of course, to Mr. Mohammed Alim and Aisha Halim, Mohammed Halim and Aisha Halim. There's so many people who avidly listens to our programs every day and every night. It's been refreshing. And ladies and gentlemen, friends all, brothers and sisters, without you, this program would not have been a success. I mean, we can give everybody else in studio here kudos and thanks, but without you, the listening public, and Leonard, we do know that a lot of persons. I mean, remember the gentleman who goes to the back dam in the barrier or Mahaika area there, and he would have called us from the back dam. Remember the people from Oriala, Pomeroon, all over that called in. So, and of course, you can't forget Brazil and Suriname and the islands and our brother. I know we have one person who's been following us keenly from Trinidad and Tobago every single day and night. So, without you all, ladies and gentlemen, it could not have been possible. And thank you for the encouragement and the love. It's been great.
Yes, absolutely, Yog. And of course, you could send us last edition here of elections, what has been 5 months, very long months. It's been sometimes harassing. We have quarreled. We have ranted a little sometimes. That is because we want to ensure that the rule of law stands in this country here. So 6222222, send us your text to that. And we want to hear you on 2267453. There's another caller line. Caller, good afternoon, you're on air. Yes, caller, good afternoon, you're on air.
Good afternoon to you, my friend.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Barker and Mr. Yo-Yo. I think you did a wonderful program during this entire, 5 months, right?
Yes, 5 months.
I think you did wonderful. What I don't understand, I am not supporting of, is when Mr. Yo-Yo getting vexed with the people. Listen, if you're on a program like this, people will always say they don't agree with you with everything. But we gotta, like when we're playing cricket, if you're out, you're out, like something like that. But what I can suggest you, Mr. Yo, could get involved in is a call-in program to deal with situations that people have. I'm begging him, if he can. I think he has done well, can answer the questions well, and would be a good help to Guyana. If I get Mr. A. Fanali, I taught him in school, so if I get him, I can probably tell him, I'm of age, so I can't do much, but at least I would tell him to put Yog in charge of something to help in this country, because we need some people with, being a little aggressive and doing things, in a different way. I think Mr. Yog would be a good manager, some, representative of the government in some way. I don't want to give him a big position because then he would ask for big money. And we don't have that kind of money to pay. But I think he deserves to be doing something in the interest of people. I think he's a people person. He can do well in some position, I can't dictate what position, but I think he's a good guy. He would do very well in helping this country moving along. Yes, not everybody would like you in a position, but I think he can do very well. So I'm asking, and if you can get this program changing from election watch to something you can call in and do something, you can say what is the problem. Like I could say, in my area the roads need fixing, and somebody take some action. We can get within a short time somebody taking a note, the minister of that responsible for that road project, whatever, and change the whole thinking of the people. I'm more into sports. I like to help in the sports. I've been a sportsman myself. But I haven't seen much being done in the area of sports. I don't know. I know Yog never played cricket. Maybe he played a little soccer tennis. And Yog and Mr. Gildarie, I know he played a little cricket, but softball, nothing, But we can get involved in something with sports. I'm really, in that kind of thing. I want to help the youth with some sports. But I think all in all, all well that ends well.
Mm-hmm. All is well that ends well.
Not everybody would like the situation, but if we go in democracy, and let me tell you something. If the people don't like what you're doing, they're going to change you. If you go into those things and you don't do what the people ask you to do, the people are going to change you. I am not the person that's going to change anybody. I don't want to change anything. But the people are going to change you if you don't do what the people want. And it's simple as that. It happens all over the world. You see what's going to happen in the U.S. and all the other countries around Trinidad, our brothers there. If you don't do what the people want, they're going to change you, my brother. You can be what or who or whatever you're portraying. The people are going to change if you're not.
I gotta start
do what
at 10:10, so I gotta start back at 10:10 so that I could bring you into the team and you and I can play some cricket together, right?
I like your style. I mean, I don't agree with you on everything. You get upset sometimes the people, which I give and take, but we gotta keep our cool because once we go into
you are right, but sometimes I agree and I apologize. There are times that we too would get a little bit frustrated.
Sometimes you get upset and maybe you have a right to get upset. But we gotta keep our temper down. Mr. Gildarie is a better man. He keep the cool and so on. So you get upset sometimes, but listen, it's all good for the people. When things happen, we must say it's good. When it's not so good, we say it. And that's how we have to start being Guyana, or else we are not going to get anywhere. The people have to call a spade a spade. And that is how it happens in a real democracy, You don't have, and listen, you can, I like this guy, Peter Wickham. I watch the program every night, unless I sleep away. Mr. Wickham is a guy who tells you as it is, you know what I mean? I like that guy.
Thanks.
And listen, we have to start thinking different in this country. Yes, a lot of things happen. Whatever the Auditor General, all the people responsible for the accounts department, whatever you have to give account for, you have to give account. But we can let things go, as it's thing, and let country move differently. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear caller. And we could probably, in the meantime, Yog, the man says that you play circle tennis and I play cricket, so I kind of like that. I'm not sure.
I'm a man of all sports. I believe in equal opportunities. I play any sport.
All right, good afternoon.
But I know where he's coming from. It's all good.
Yes, good afternoon, guys. And they even making recommendations what the next program could be. It looks as if the people don't want to get rid of us. Yog, I'm not sure why they don't want to see the backs of us, and maybe could deal with room 592 in a more holistic way. But yes, maybe tomorrow night we could open the lines and let the people talk about what they expect from the new government. That is going to be an interesting conversation. Good afternoon, guys. Listening from Linden. I second that gentleman, Mr. Mahadeo. Hats off to you. Needed to fit in somewhere in the government office. Thank you for the great job I've been watching. So we're receiving a lot of thank you here from our people, and it has created an avenue in which ordinary Guyanese, this is coming locally here, it has created an avenue in which ordinary Guyanese people can share the views and experiences and discuss issues affecting everyone. I hope that your listeners have developed a yearning for national issues discussion as we work towards making this country achieve its potential and a brighter future. And you're right, the room 592 has indeed lifted the conversation, the discussions on issues, while it was mostly on elections. It is really, I think we have started off touching on some other issues, including the environment and so on. And these are conversations that we have to continue talking about. I think a lot of people are also interested in, you did mention it a little earlier, about the law and how it is that we see it. Maybe we could talk about the various aspects. How could we sue somebody? Maybe that is going to be a big one, especially if you're in public office and you have abused the office. Could we get some kind of damages from that, and maybe some kind of relief from the courts? Because I think a clear message has to be sent that no more can you sit in an office and if you resign tomorrow morning that you believe that's the end of it. We could actually go after your assets, among other things, because we could sue you in your personal capacity also, and these are things that we need to talk about.
Well, Leonard, one of the other things that would be extremely important going ahead, right, is I certainly hope, Leonard, my fervent prayer is that these members of this new cabinet don't become, and I say this with respect, they don't become pigs overnight. Unfortunately, in Guyana's history, as soon as people get to a position, there are very rare situations where when people get to a position that they remain humble and they remain within the reach of the ordinary people. Too many of our leaders, wannabe leaders, so-called leaders, you name it, too many of them, the moment they get a title and a position, they are like in somewhere else living, and the people are reminded you're down. The way they talk to people, the way they treat people, I don't like it. And the other thing, I tell you, one of the problems I have, and I'm going to give this government time to get their act right, but history must not be forgotten. So, for example, this government must not expect that they must do the same thing that the last one was criticized for and expect to get away with it. They cannot, and they must not be allowed to. And the other thing, the use of media. I remember clearly, and I want to put this on record today, the first day of a PPP government. The last PPP government, Leonard, they had reached, in fact, I don't think it was the Ramotar's administration. It was previous to the Ramotar's administration, if I remember. Correct me. You're the newspaper man here. But the government of Guyana had started to issue their weekly press briefings out of Freedom House. You can't do that. You must not do that. Keep your party and your party apparatus separate from the state. We must not, and as a people, we got to hold politicians responsible, Leonard. And we got to ensure that the certain fine lines that they might want to just wipe away, don't allow them to wipe it away. Certain things are important. And one of the things obviously important is a separation between a party and a state, a government. I want to ensure that the best person must get a job, not because of their loyalty factor to a party or because they're a cousin or family or daughter or friend or somebody. Yes, everybody's daughter and son and friend. As long as you're qualified, you should go through an evaluation process like everybody else. And if you get a job, you get a job. Yeah. But Leonard, people must not. We must go beyond that. I remember being part of situations where jobs were being handed in the form of cronyism and nepotism. And we, in fact, the media has to ensure that you keep your eyes on the ball. Do not allow, regardless whether it is Yog, regardless whether it's Leonard that is in some government position and you farm Leonard, you become one of the government. You must not be allowed to think. You must not be allowed. And Leonard, it was a crying shame that millions and millions of dollars was being spent to paint state property green, to spend to do this and spend to do that kind of nastiness to propagate a political party rather than the country of Guyana. I certainly hope that every morning Mr. Irfan Ali will wake up, as you're saying, they always wake up on the right side of the bed and do the right thing. But Leonard, the media will continue to have a very important role to play. And I certainly see that role as being contributory, not destructive, contributory to the development of the country. And let me put on record as well, Yog Mahadeo, I am supportive of an elections petition going to the court. All of these allegations, I want to see it in front of the judge. I want to hear the arguments. I want to see the death certificates being presented. I want to see the evidence being cross-examined. I want to see that we have gone through too much to let an elections petition not go to court. And those returning officers and those agents and those people whose eyes were shut while some impersonation supposedly happened, if it was true, jail them, lock them up. We can't do this again.
Yes, Yog, thank you very much. And I had to seek help on this one here. I'm going to murder the Hindi language now. And so I'm going to try, and you guys don't laugh, but I'm going to get Raj to correct it if I can. So it's Shabash, guys. Sab Bikul Tik He. I don't know. Come. He's going to tell you correctly.
Good afternoon. Sabas guys, sab bilkul theek hai. Let me explain in English. Sabas guys means wonderful guys. Everything is all right.
All right. Well, my question is, did I do well? Did I do well in saying it? So, Yog, I didn't more than that much. I think I have a grade there, maybe 60%. Kevin is laughing, but that was Raj, one of our very hardworking man of the controls here in the studio here at Kaicho Radio. So, thank you very much there, Raj. Let's get back to the lines. We want to hear from our people. Yes, good afternoon, Cody on the air.
Yeah, election watch.
Yes, sir. You on air. Go ahead.
Well, good afternoon to you and your Siamese twin there.
Go ahead.
I think
Yog Mahadeo, Dr. Yog
Mahadeo. Yes, my brother Yog. Before my little contribution, I just want to remind you that I'm still up for the debate that he promised, not just promised, but he threw out to me, right? When I make some finds and he was willing to say the debate.
I need your number so I could make contact with you. Must send in, must text, WhatsApp your number.
Yeah, I will give it. I could give the number off here. I could give the number off.
Please,
right?
Leonard, let's make sure we get his number.
Yeah. My only for this for what we just went through is the constitution reform, because I believe this is the only way out.
Mm-hmm. I
don't have any confidence that, despite what you and Yog might be saying, I believe government will rule how government does rule. I believe that the new government, the PP, despite all the nice phrases, they might have good intentions, but when they start to roll out all the changes and so you're going to see it will go the other side, the other end.
Mm-hmm.
So the only hope for me, I believe, is on the constitution reform, because I have some presentation that I want to do to the constitution reform. Listen to Anand Nandalal yesterday. You already see a backpedaling, because he is now raising up that the 2050 petition that will come before this any petition file now. So already you don't see that there'll be a battle here, because he probably don't want this petition to come through quickly. Because after he was swearing at the convention center, a question was posed to him, and he said, well, the 2015 one that will come before the 2021, right? He wasn't saying that before the declaration. The guy was saying, not a petition. And now that the declaration has been made, he's not putting up a case that it had been the 2051 before. So I don't think this is going to change. So the constitution reform for me is the hope, because what I want to put to the constitution reform, people in the reform, I believe we should only vote for the president. I believe that election should keep only for the president, and then you divide up the country into zone or district or something, and then there's where the parliamentarians have to fight for themselves, whether they turn to parties or they turn to individuals or turn to independents, where the people vote for the parliamentarians themselves, not one leader telling you who must be the parliament. People going into parliament. So you must go into parliament by the people vote, if you understand what I mean.
Yes. We had that long with the first past the post system kind of thing, right?
Right. You keep an election for the president of the country.
Yes.
What is, and then people fight now to become parliamentarians. So if I'm a member of the PNC and you have a PNC president, the PNC president moved me from parliament because I was elected from my district by the people in the PNC people in that area. The only way I can be moved back out of parliament is when I go back to election again, and then people contest again, and then there's how you're being removed. There's one way. The next proposal I want to put on the table is that the regional funding, right, which will be like the regional funding. The government will not decide who gets the money. They put up some quota system or some criteria, just as the constitution reform, this constitution agency get their money. So Region 1 gets some money, Region 3, Region 4, and this time. Because what people become was telling you, certain areas will always remain under PNC. I am telling you that. New Amsterdam, Linden, Georgetown. I know for certain, despite what people say, PNC is on the fall or whatever, those areas will never ever support the PUP.
Thank you very much.
The funding for those areas, the funding should be in the Constitution. And the changes of ministries should be fixed. Now, when the government come in, this government is going to change up all the ministries now. It should be fixed. So whoever comes to power, you rule on those ministries that is fixed. So those are the things I want to put to the constitutional reform. I believe this is the only hope. If the constitutional reform is going to come, I don't know.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. So, Leonard, if I can comment. So we do have, that is an interesting perspective. Thank you, caller, for that. And Leonard, let's try to see if we can get the gentleman's a number.
Yes, 622-622-222. Just text us that number here, and I'm going to have Dr. Yog Mahadeo to make contact with you.
Yes. So Leonard, just a comment on his call. So yes, indeed, constitutional reform would be very important, but that type of constitutional reform will require 2/3 of the parliament, 2/3 of the National Assembly. I would certainly want to encourage us all to encourage our political parties to move down. I certainly would support that because, Leonard, yes, if a man is coming out of Linden, whoever is earning the Linden's vote or earning Region 5's vote or earning Region 6 vote should be the person earning their votes that can enter National Assembly, not for the head of the political party to say, Leonard, you were born in Berbice, and never mind you're living in Diamond. I am going to appoint you as my rep, as my National Assembly rep of Berbice. That's what's been happening. A lot of people who are in National Assembly, they don't have any roots back with where they originally came from, but they're representing that area. That's one of the things that certainly need to be. But with regards to the budgeting, the regions do have their own budget. What's been happening in a lot of ways, in some ways, is that the regions that are opposed to a current government, like I remember clearly, it was a case where I believe it was in Region 10 that had hit the headlines at one time, that at the end of the year, the monies went back to the central fund because had they spent the money, the government of the day would have looked good. And so a lot of times the populace don't get to benefit because there is a political decision. And those are some of the things the caller is right. Those are some of the things we need to move past, Leonard.
Absolutely, dear Yog. And so let's get back to some text. We have one here coming all the way from the Netherlands, from Ken Kendrick. How are you doing, sir? If you're listening, good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you, guys, for keeping the Guyanese in Guyana and the world informed. I've been watching and listening to your program since the election. Only sometimes I don't watch the 1930 because of the time difference. I'm very happy for my Guyanese people. I do hope they can stay calm and get on with their lives. So thank you. God bless. Ken Kendrick from the Netherlands. A good day to you, sir. Or good afternoon. I think it might be in the evening there. Thank you very much, guys. Yog arguments and skill was to the point. That's what made stuff happen. So Yog, it's gone beyond wrongdoers now. The people are really thinking that you did tremendously well.
Well, Leonard, the other thing too that I think, you see on social media, there are some persons that just not wanting people to move on, just not wanting the narrative to change at all. I'm seeing Mr. Burke. Sir, you're an American citizen. This country has to live and carry on. Burke has somehow drawn this whole charges against Keith Lowenfield as a racist matter. He feels that racism is so overt. Charges against Claude were dropped, but charges against Keith Lowenfield continue. Those are the kind of things and the narrative and the discussions that are.
Mr. Burke is on this timeline.
Yeah, he has a right for his own opinion, of course, but those things are so incendiary, they're so inflammatory. To what end? I've seen the opposition has now started their talk show as, what is the name of it? Resistance. When you could have resisted the corruption within your own government, you did not. When you could have resisted going against a backwardness of having an election petition filed on March the 3rd or 4th of this year. You did not. You prolonged an election. You pillaged this country. Leonard, your newspaper, Kaitro News, is carrying some headlines about the center at East Coast, at the COVID, what you call it center there that they built. And more and more as we would see what's happening, that center that the Ministry of Health built there, Leonard, $1 billion is a fraction of the total cost. You and I have said it before. Mm-hmm. But what's going to happen? For every failed white elephant or whatever it is that the last government started and built, it was taxpayers' money. Now, this government, Irfan Ali has to ask himself, am I going to continue to throw good money after bad money? Am I going to continue to take the taxpayers' dollars and throw it away after a bad investment? Because they have to run this country as if it was a business, as if it was an investment for the people. You're investing the people's money. And so, Leonard, all of those things, and the moment they make a decision to, for example, scrap that project or any other project that might be a half-hearted attempt to just steal and slide money outside of the system, then, it goes against the grain, and you will hear a whole set of victimization call and this kind of call and accusation and this. But Guyanese people, read, educate yourself, and learn the facts. And there are very few persons, but there are going to persistently be persons who will be independent, that will share all the information possible in it.
Thank you very much, dear Yog. Good afternoon. We from Friends Guyana always enjoy your program. Congratulations to our new president. Keep up the good work, guys, all the way from Friends Guyana there. How are you guys doing in Cayenne? How is it there? We have many Guyanese living there. Good day to you folks. Let's go straight to the lines again. Good afternoon. Caller, you in the air.
Hi, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Mahadeo.
Yes.
I just want to say congratulations to President-elect Mr. Ali, Irfan Ali.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I'm going to tell you something. You see, all those people who were calling in and talking about the reform, the constitutional reform. They up now, if they were talking about constitutional reform, or when they go in there, they see it fit to leave it to suit them. So all these things about constitutional reform and all these things is waste of time. Nobody would change that. It worked for that man. It got to work for them too. And next thing I want to touch on, I hope we get a good education minister, somebody who know the difference between Diwali and Pagua. We don't want to go in on Diwali Day and telling the children Happy Pagua, and we hope that this government take all this acts up.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing I want to touch on, you see that lady, Valda Lawrence, are a very wicked lady. I'm going to tell you something. There are many sick people going to public hospital,
yes,
and they don't have the right medication for them. What they are doing, they are giving you substitute medication just to don't get a bad name, that the countries in a crisis that don't have medication. They are giving you substituting to use it to treat your pain and all these things. This place in the country, we have a little bit of people down here. We meet 1 million people, and we cannot provide even proper water for people to drink. We don't have proper roads, housing accommodation. What if we had like 2-3 million down here? I'm telling you, people would have died human being down here. Look at the COVID. People were living in poverty. COVID come and carry these people long way more in poverty. Some people can lucky to eat a bread a day. Some people can eat it every other day to get the bread to eat.
Mm-hmm.
People used to buy 2-ply toilet paper. They buy 1-ply now. If they buy 2, they got to use 1 today, 1 tomorrow. This is how bad this country gone. People are not using toilet paper. Some of them use water, and you had Granger them in there. These people are shameless, man. I don't know. And when you talk, the plenty time to blame you. You were racist, but they don't want to hear the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
caller. But I hope when this new government's very quick, they go and they see people who not working, don't have anything to eat. I was touched when that young lady called in from Borbies. She have a 3-year-old child, and they don't have food to eat. What more this government, this David Granger want to see? People are starving and they're full in their pocket. What I want their funds to do, since that no confidence motion was passed, all of them who collect money should pay back that money. Give them an amnesty. If they can't do it, jail them.
Mm-hmm.
They rip and bleed this country. They were milking cow. You know, like we're pulling these cow. Bobby, that is what this government were doing to people. Milking you, pulling you from outside just to gain financial thing for themselves. Watch how much young girls, Harmon, he all over
All right. Yes,
these nightclubs.
Yeah.
He have time with
That's,
people. I said,
yeah, we
I
Call
said,
it.
Leonard,
Yes.
pertaining
not
to
make any accusatory
the
things.
commissioner of police. You know, asking thing, one of the commissioner driver were at that nightclub. I said it on your thing, Leonard. You know.
All right.
These nurses have to stop, man. It's too long. People have been suffering in this place.
Well, look, caller, we know you're frustrated. A lot of persons are frustrated, and you know what? It's August the 3rd. It's a new government in place, so let us see what they would do, and they have their own time and their own way to get things done. Let's hope that all of our frustrations can come to an end very, very quickly. But thank you so much for expressing your sentiments.
It's very touching to see what people are going through in this country, man.
Yeah.
People are starving to death while a few are full in the pocket. But I'm glad what America do with that sanction. You know, they can't leave and all the assets should be forfeit. They bleed this country, man. They shame. In 1990 is supposed to be the last election. We had elections in 1992. You know, it's something these people accustomed to doing. And before this election, they put people in key places so they can manipulate people and do what they do with this election. But they know the people say, oh, long rope get an end. And yesterday was it. Yesterday was it. Watch I walk around town. You're seeing the brightness in town. You're feeling the joy and happiness. And this Raksha Bandha Day today, people come out and thank God that, you know, these people have had fed up with these people there, man. They were a bunch of bloodsuckers, I will deem them as.
All right,
you know?
Caller, thank you very much, sir. And we can understand the frustration there. Let's hope there's a new dawn, there's a new day. Let's see how that goes. Have a pleasant rest of the day. So yes, today it is Raksha Bandhan. We want to say hello to all the sisters across there. And I know you and myself, Yog, and the boys in the studio, we got a lot of sisters too have been joining us here for elections and COVID-19 watch. We want to say much love, sisters. I also want to say good day to my wife, Sabrina. You see, Yog, I'm no longer too much conservative. I was very private, so I'm pulling off it because I know that you've been coming out and in your tease to me over the last couple of weeks, which has been very, very painful, that the whole world saw when you were making your stuff and teasing me on Facebook and things like that. I will not forget it in a very short while. I'm still thinking in my head, how do I respond to you?
Well, Leonard, let's go with the flow. That what has been like. Now that you're threatening me, I gotta run, get away, and hide from elections. What?
I would never threaten you, my brother. But it is what it is. This is a beautiful country, like I've always said. The power is in the hands of the people. I think the elections have made it very, very clear on the score, if you didn't know it before, that every vote counts. That's one. Two, that you have the right to say to your politicians, and you could use letters to the editors, you could use Facebook, you could use a call-in program, you could meet them at a rally, you could go to whichever political party headquarters that they are in, because they represent you in the National Assembly, and you could open your mouth and you could say things to them. You could go to NDC and you could talk to your chairman and the councillors there. You could go to RDC, you could go to the mayor and city council, you could go to the councils, your town councils in the respective township that we have across this country. And we could tell them, we have a right to tell our representatives when they're not doing the job, or to give them kudos if they are. So many things, you have a right to do a lot of things in this country. Your passport is a very important thing, so let us remind you of that. It is August the 3rd, 2020, one day after President Irfan Ali would have been sworn in. He has a big task ahead of him, an uphill task, to deal with the elections, the economy, as well as COVID-19. COVID-19 is going to be the one that's hanging over the head of the people because our borders remain closed. We are seeing rising number of cases, and I think more importantly, Yog, would be the suffering of the people. That's something that is increasing more and more every day. A very stark reminder there from that caller with regards to even toilet paper, how people are rationing, to you want of a better word, the toilet paper that they would have. They're not even using that. They're using water now, and so these are things that we have to live with. It's a reality that we have to live with in this COVID time. Could we have done better? Of course. Could we have arrested the situation earlier? Months ago, we could have done that, but no. It's a situation that went on, and a few persons would have been pushing this. We have not forgotten. In the coming days, we will be assessing, making sure that this is not something that our state resources are being abused to push or to foster anything that is going to divide our people. This is not something that our country stand for. Our people definitely do not stand for that, and they deserve so much more. Yog?
Yes, Leonard, indeed. A lot of eyes are also going to be placed on the transition itself, Leonard. So we got to always keep in mind the transition is not necessarily an easy thing, Persons who were up to the day before, up to yesterday midday, for example, that were calling themselves ministers, would have immediately become a private citizen upon the declaration. And so the transition is key, Leonard. And among the many reasons why transition is key is not just to secure assets and all of that, but to ensure that documents and the continuation of work goes on. It was interesting to note, I think yesterday, there would have been a public call made after the president was sworn in for the accounting officers and so forth to continue to do what they have to do to secure documents, secure, things, agreements and so forth that are in place. The reason I raise that, Leonard, because a lot of eyes will be on what's happening. Remember, in transition, ladies and gentlemen, two paradigms are there. One paradigm or one side is the set of people that have been voted out, of which there would be persons that are disgruntled, that didn't like the fact that they're voted out. Now, they might mean very well. They might mean very well. But remember, in between Mr. A and Mr. A plus or B, the outgoing and the incoming, there are persons working there. And one of the problems in governments and in countries like Guyana, Leonard, is that the people who work in those offices, many times they also have a political bias. And so a lot of eyes would be on how those people operate. How do they carry out their job, their mandate, whether they're carrying it out without fear or favor to a political system. Now, we have seen, for example, let us take some of the unions. Some of the trade union movements in Guyana are members of the National Assembly sitting under a political umbrella. That has historically been so in Guyana. We have seen, for example, that I think the General Secretary of the Teachers Union is on the APNO AFC slate. We have seen and know that members of the TUC are on the APNO AFC slate. We have seen that the Public Service Union, that represents the largest block of public service employees, are part of the APNO AFC program. And so those are the kinds of permutations one would want to keep in mind as you pay keen attention to what is happening in the transition. Don't forget also, Leonard, there is another very important thing here. Look, this Harman has played a divisive role in Guyana's politics. He has been very divisive in everything he did. On one hand, he is forced to comply with the laws. On one hand, but on the other hand, he's telling people don't comply or don't do this or don't do that or we're never going to give up. The kind of words he's using, And so one has to look, for example, Harman held the position of ministry at the Ministry of Presidency. He then, after he was told that he can be a dual citizen and have that job, he was then made a Director General. He then was made head of the CEO of the COVID task force. So there are a lot of agreements and discussions and stuff that would rest with somebody like a Harman. There's a lot of things that would rest with somebody like Moses Nagamutu. Now, for example, I've seen a gentleman who I know who we invited to be part of our show. I've seen Mr. Harberton. With due respect to Mr. Harberton, I believe Mr. Harberton needs to resign his position because why wait for a new government to fire you? I think Mr. Ganesh Mahipal needs to resign his position. Why wait for a new government to tell you, well, you were on the party slate. You campaigned for them. You cannot be held. You cannot hold the taxpayers at ransom to continue to pay you while you do your master's bidding under another government. You're not going to do what the taxpayers want you to do. You're going to do what your master is going to bid you to do. And so, Leonard, I need to raise that back because we started this discussion with it because it is what this country needs to look at. How these people are going to manage themselves over the next weeks as the new government takes its place, Leonard.
Absolutely, Yog. It is a conversation that needs to be had. However, I want to caution. I can remember in 2015, a lot of persons were calling and says, people were telling them coming into the ministries that it is our time now. This is not something we could do better than that. I think a couple of days back, responding to two people who were writing for Kiteshore News, Lincoln Lewis and Dr. David Hines, they would have used, and that's a shameful thing. Let me address this right here now, because some things, when you see the how low we have stooped and the attempts to divide our people or to make people look bad, all because you want political mileage, I can't believe that some people would do that. Both of them were warned. Every newspaper has their not political, but straight side on which they want to walk on. Any newspaper, any media house would have a particular direction that they would want to walk. I think David Hines and Lincoln Lewis were both called after they were ejected from writing for the Chronicle. They went on and they were writing for the Chronicle after 2015. And after they were ejected by the board that was ordered by the government of the day, Glenn picked up or I think somebody within Kiteshore would have picked up the phone and said, "You guys come here." Glenn told me that he didn't even see the guys them, or they even talked to the guys them, but they started writing. And so it was when after elections, and of course they wanted you. I am a columnist in the Kiteshore newspaper, and I cannot write anything that I feel like. It has to be in good taste. It has to be in fact. It has to be factual. There's so many things that it has to face the litmus test. And so when you have a couple of people who want to write things that are probably not necessarily factual and want to present it to an editor, it would have to pass the litmus test. And definitely a couple of articles did not pass it. And Glenn made it very clear in his response on Sunday. If you did not read it, I think we all should. It is that when people go low, you go high. And he's saying that, for all of this, I didn't know that I would harbor such a man under my roof. But however, I would do the right thing, which is I wish Yog Mahadeo and I wish Gildarie all the best in the future endeavors. And I thought that was very, very good. But what you would have had is people, you have people coming into office right now. Do not do the things that would have happened in the past, that, people were saying this is our time now, you get the hell out of here or anything. That is not what we do as good people. If you want to be civil, if you want to be civilized people, if you want to do the correct thing, let us remember that while the other people might have done things, they are our countrymen. Let us teach them to be higher. Let's teach them to do the correct thing. The civil thing, the godly thing. Let us do that, Yog.
Correct, Leonard, correct. And we got to also continue to look out for the people of this country. Yeah, look, I mean, Leonard, a new government is in place, and we certainly hope for a lot of changes and a lot of speedy resolutions to some old things. But we got to also look out for the people of this country, regardless of their politics. I mean, whatever has happened over 150 days has already happened. We got to put some of the things behind us, and we got to move on. We got to also keep an eye open for the policemen. We got to keep an eye open for the people who are maintaining the front line of things, Leonard. A lot of work. The police force has itself come a far way. It's one of the things, that I do know that over the past 5 years, we have seen a reduction in the aspect of bribery, corruption of policemen. I don't know whether it still happened as much as it used to happen before, but I do know that you have not seen much of it appearing in public space. And the police has stepped up. The police has stepped up. These elections have not done the police reputation well, right? Especially with regards to the reporting on the immigrants issue and the way they handle a lot of things on elections, the weeks after elections. But, so there are certain areas of the country, Leonard, that needs to step up its act. You got to look at a couple of service areas. We mentioned GWI. GWI needs to really, really get its act in order, and the telephone companies, both GT&T and Digicel. One has to look at the paradigm going forward, Leonard. The new legislation is in place. The agency of the telecoms sector needs to be in place. There needs to be a good head of the telecoms agency, and PUC and all of that. And they need to really have a strong, long look at the telecoms sector. Look, there's been a lot of court cases filed over these elections period, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of court cases filed. Let us now start paying our attention to some of these contracts and maybe take people's actions against some of the contracts, whether it is telecoms, whether it is GWI, whether it is GPL, whatever it is. But the people has to certainly start to step up to the plate and let their voices be heard through the courts. Because if the service level of any of the utility companies is not up to scratch, then we, the people, got to do something about it. We, the people, have to react and react immediately to any poor thing, Leonard. So I'm hoping that by and large, a lot of the ways that we have been doing things in the past must change.
Yes, absolutely. But I think it's a big shame, Yog. You did mention utilities there and the way that they operate. This has always been a crying thing since growing up, seeing my grandfather would have one of these gas lamps, and I could remember every time we had blackout. This thing was so bright and it drove a lot of heat, but growing up I remember that about the blackouts. And of course the kerosene lamps. But Yog, it's a crying shame that since about 10 years now, that we've been working on this liberalization of the telecom sector, and that we are still not able to get new companies to come here because one company has decided or it has been pushing and frustrating the process. I hope that this government is going to be taking close notice and seeing that the amount of things that could be done. Those companies that come in, that you could have faster bandwidth, that gives the people more options, that maybe you'd have cable television, IPTV, so many other things that could be done here. I think this elections and the COVID-19 would have made it very clear the importance of the internet and the role that internet, good connectivity would have been playing. You would have seen the courts, right?
And cybercrime, Leonard, and cybercrime, overwatch, over the internet, all of these threats, all of these postings of lewd and nude and abusive things on the internet. Look, if it's one thing I'm very, very passionate about, is the protection of our children. And the way things are happening in this country, we still have children that are starving. We still have children that are undergoing abuse of one type or the other. And that cannot be. As a people, if we cannot safeguard our children, we have lost everything. So those are some of the things, Leonard. And I think you have some messages coming in there, Leonard, on your phone that you might want to check out. But Leonard, the other issue that I want to mention very quickly, of course, from a political perspective is, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the new government, I'm going to repeat this. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, the new government has its work cut out for it. They got a lot of people who want jobs, a lot of people who are looking for change that will impact them directly. A lot of people who are under constraints for COVID-19 that are expecting that all of a sudden COVID will disappear and vanish. It wouldn't. A lot of persons who are overseas, the diaspora that wants to come back and contribute. And Leonard, in the mix is a lot of people who feel that because Irfan Ali is sworn in, that they must be treated like demigods and they must be treated like this and they must be treated like that. And you know, the nepotism and cronyism demands that are going to be there, as well as something you mentioned before. You know, one looks at Anil Nandlal, one looks at Irfan Ali, one looks at Mark Phillips, one looks at all of these people, including Barra Jagdeo, stepping up to the fore in the new political face of Guyana. And one has to say there's a lot of demand that they must do things overnight. How they're going to prioritize their things would be left to us. And I certainly hope, Leonard, that Mr. Irfan Ali, President Irfan Ali, is going to treat all independent media equally and not favor some over the other. That has to be something that we can start to expect from them very, very soon.
Absolutely, and so we expect a press conference to be held as early as possible. We don't expect to see a repeat of what would have passed or gone on in the past, with where heads of state would go one time or three times to a particular online, maybe radio, which you know, that is so thing, and not give the other media a chance to ask questions, especially during this entire elections period here. I expect that Dr. Irfan Ali is going to ensure that he holds more press conferences, that he engages the media. So we look forward to hearing from him. Not you know, sit in some backroom thing. I believe he's going to do the right thing. We know that he's made some good commitments. So let us see how that goes from there, and we take it.
And let me just say this. Let me just say this to my well, I don't know if it's a brother or sister. There's somebody named Red River Singh. My friend Red. You see, I'm not gonna bring the good the former ministers of the government to ask them about certain things. My objective is to ask their views, to ask what they think, not to, and never has it been on a show, a program that I've been part of, that, you know, we want to belittle anyone. We would ask our questions, we would ask hard questions sometimes. But my aim has always been more of a reconciliatory approach. Can we find a ground to work from, rather than to continue to light the fire basically on what happened in the past? So yes, certainly we are hoping to ask some hard questions. But for me, I want to know what's the role of the AFC now. I want to know, for example, you know, if persons, I want to ask Harman, for example. I would like to watch him in the eyes and say, if today was March 2nd, 2020, knowing what happened over 150 days, would you still do the same? I want to ask them kind of, you know, Leonard, because that's how you know whether we have learned a lesson or not. And those are some of the perspectives we need to put into place now.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, the attention is going to come down very clearly on the funders, on the financiers of what would have played out here. And we seriously got to start thinking about campaign financing and money laundering and those kind of things. Put the attention back on these areas, because there are laws that we passed after much wrangling in the National Assembly, and we need our constitutional bodies, we need the laws to work. And so when we're talking about people who would be funding particular parties and expect repayments in a very big way, and we know at least one company which was benefited significantly, maybe sometimes from projects that were not above board, that seems to be a little too high too. We would have done a lot of investigations, and there are more things I believe are going to come out, which are going to probably shock the hell out of the Guyanese people. But that's a story for another day. In the meantime, we want to talk to our people as we wind down this very last edition of Elections COVID-19 Watch here on Kaicho Radio. It's going to evolve into something else, but that's in the planning stages. Maybe I'm going to be back. But Yog has decided that he's going to part company with his brother. Is caller 9? Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Glenn. Good afternoon, Leonard and
Yog.
Bill.
Yes.
Yog, yeah. Last week you had to take over the show with talking. Again, you had to take it over even though you are closing it down. But I want to say a special good afternoon to a name that you call early on, Kamal, is Kamal King.
Kemal King.
Kemal King. Last week I was calling to promote him. There's a champion little journalist. That journalist, right, wrote an article at time pertaining to the attitude in Parliament in terms of the behavior. And one of the things that struck me about the article that you write, I don't think he understand to the extent we see what's going on in Parliament coming. Because one of the things that he mentioned the age and the way they used to behave in Parliament. That is one, right? Secondly, I'm glad you mentioned in the opening stage of this program upon the interview that you did with Infinali, that he said he would like to get Barjagio as the vice president. So when we hear some people speaking, when it's a shock to some people and it's strange to some people, this is something that already been said because you could find it on YouTube. But prior to that, I'm going to be sending my number to the WhatsApp number because I'm the person that they speak about the youngsters them, and I want me and you got a public conversation based upon the way forward.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
But I want to say a special good afternoon again to Kamal King and let Kamal King farm his team and press in terms of the same piece of article that you write and get these people as young as he be in terms of conducting the behavior and know that they got a nation to deal with.
And you can rest assured that's going to happen. Thank you very much, caller. Have a pleasant rest of the day. So, in the meantime, Yog, yes, it is. There's a lot of work here. I think one of the questions that I really wanted to ask in room 592 last night, and of course, Peter Wickham, revelation is normal. Sorry, Ronald Sanders, always good talking to him. These guys hold no punches. And of course, somebody is saying here, they're talking about punches. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Yes, it was a great day for all Guyanese because democracy prevails. I'm going to miss you guys. I took my lunch break just to get the latest information. Keep up the good work, Yog. Tell Leonard you are no cricketer, you're a boxer. You don't hold any punches back. I'll miss you guys, but continue to watch room 592. So you're a boxer now, Yog, from Rounders. Was it Rounders or circle tennis? Is this the same thing?
Circle tennis, sir.
Oh, my goodness. But it is what it is. There's another caller in line. Good afternoon, caller. You're near. Yes, our apologies. We're going to go back there. In the meantime, let's get some other quick message. Good afternoon. West Coast Berbice has huge plot of roadside lands, which are suitable for housing and so many other beneficial projects. Yeah, they're planting coconut trees and small amount of cash crops. And running the place with bushes. They don't forget to stick the APNU flag all over. Does the land belong to them now that we have a new government? Can we use this as a housing area for persons who don't have somewhere to call home? Well, maybe. I think the new Central Housing and Planning Authority, again, lands and survey, and of course the government would be paying attention to that. Mr. Gildarie, as a journalist, you should know only the media puts pressure on the government to act a lot of times, and this has to be the case with GT&T's liberalization. We would have clashed with the GT&T many times. We would have asked questions of Cathy Hughes as Minister of Telecommunications. Over the years, we have been paying very close attention to the liberalization process. I'm going to tell you that it's not going to stop in any way. I myself have issues with the quality of internet that I am getting, and by extension, what all Guyana is getting. And of course, the price that we pay for such service or lack of service thereof. So that is where, let's go to the call. Yes, good afternoon, caller, you're on the air. Good afternoon, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Leonard, how are you doing? Yourself from you.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes, okay. My blood pressure finally went back to normal yesterday after having been stressed out for 5 months with the Guyana election. And I'm in New York, and I take it on, and I can imagine what you guys have to do in Guyana. However, I would like to wish the new government all the best. And I can assure you, even though I'm inclined to support the PPP, I will be calling them out if they mess up. I can assure you that. I'll be like a kite news on them. Because for me, for you to have good governance, you must have proper opposition to bring out the best in the government. I am also saddened with the fact that you guys are not going to be doing this COVID-19 program anymore, because for me it was very informative and very enlightening. And, listening to you it's an amazing piece. Yoga, I'll be missing you. I know we'll keep in contact via social media. Once again, all the best to the new government, all the best to Guyana. Please, COVID-19, please move out of Guyana, move out of this world, and please keep Leonard and Yog healthy and safe. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, New York. And of course, as New York is preparing, I understand, for Tropical Storm Isaiah. I hope you guys keep safe. I know that there have been a lot of, in recent years, the number of natural phenomena in terms of the weather has been it's been terrible for them. Sandy was a big one that really destroyed a lot of homes down in the Long Island area. Good day to you folks here. Yog, I think we winding up with this.
Yes, Leonard. And as we winding up our show for today, I want to remind everybody we will continue on Room 592. We're we know we're going to continue to have the pragmatic type of discussions we're having open, bringing in experts from all the various fields. So for tonight, tomorrow night, and the following night, we'll continue to assess and analyze a governmental transition. In Room 592 tonight, we're going to have Mr. Senior Counsel Anthony Astafan having his views from the OECS side of things. We're going to have Mr. Paul Nehru Tennessee tonight. We're going to have Mr. Kemra Gramjatan. And tomorrow night, we're going to have some youngsters, some of the younger persons who are not in the PPP necessarily, but persons who have been part of this whole new political thinking, activism kind of thing. So tomorrow night, that's going to happen. Wednesday night, we're going to have Freddie Kisoon. Hopefully he can make it for Wednesday night, Leonard. So hopefully we'll get those things in place. And of course, as of next week, Leonard, we are hoping to go back to what would have been our usual, my original intent for Room 592, to move beyond politics and let's talk about the environment. Let's talk about things that matter to Guyanese people. Let's talk about banking. Let's talk about agriculture and all of those kinds of things. So that's what we're hoping to, as we continue to move into the Room 592, Leonard.
Yes, thank you very much there, Yog. And you could rest assured that whatever format that our next show is going to take, that takes over from elections and COVID-19 watch, Yog is always going to be there because we're going to demand, we're going to insist that he comes on board sometimes. Of course, Room 592 is going to remain our staple primetime show that is going to really try to break grounds because there's so many things to talk about: state of our hospitals, border security, foreign policy, diplomacy, investments, incentives, GRA, the operations of GRA. We could go on and on and on. Of course, our education system, the fallbacks. We need to talk about the social net for the vulnerables, Yog. This is something that is bothering me based on the COVID-19 fallouts and what we would have seen people raising how they're really suffering. We have to talk about these things because...
And don't forget, Leonard, constitutional reform and cybercrime management.
Yes, there's so many things there. Let's go to the calls here very quickly. Caller, you on the line. Go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You and your team.
Yes, sir.
And I wish the... Hello?
Yes, you're on air. Go ahead. Speak.
Yes. Welcome. I just said welcome to the new government. Hello?
Yes, you're on air. Go ahead.
You should reduce your own volume. I think you're listening to your feedback.
I congratulate for the new government. It's okay. And you all have to see all the office, all the things what to do, what to have to be done, have to be done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
According to the law.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't go on only one side on the other side. You have to go what's supposed to happen. If a person is wrong, well, you have to get what you have to get.
Mm-hmm.
And at least the person that in position, if they have to get this subject, they have to get the subjects and the qualification to suit the position.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that the country would go forward very nice and easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, live as one. They have no race, no color, no creed, but live as unity as one. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Indeed.
much. Yes, thank you very much, the caller, right on the point there. Yog, it's a very important point that caller would have raised there. We should get qualified persons for the jobs that we have that are opening again. It shouldn't be because I'm family to you and I have connections there, or because I'm a party member that I'm getting those jobs. It has to be because you qualified for those jobs. And if you're being put up for those jobs and it's open, not a ministerial position, we understand those positions. But what about something in the public sector? So there is a procedure to bring people on, and we have to. In the past, we would have had many contract workers. There's not a situation we want to go back to, although it was cited as an option that people would have had. So many things to discuss as we move along the way. But what I could tell you this morning with regards to the news, hours after he would have been sworn in, President Irfan Ali would have met with the department heads at the Ministry of the Presidency, telling them or updating them what he expects, and stating that there's not going to be any discrimination, that they are going to move ahead with the programs very quickly. Cabinet is supposed to be up and running by the end of the week. This morning also, the Alliance for Change would have conceded, did indicate that it's not too happy with the results, of course. Elections petition, let's see where that goes. Nigel Williams, acting-chief of the Guyana Chronicle, would have left the job. That was after widely expected that there would have been some fallouts from the coverage of elections 2020 and what that state-owned newspaper would have allowed itself to have become, described by some, including my co-host, as the rag. Elections petition, well, we have not seen or heard anything from that as yet from the coalition. So it's probably going to take a little while before we hear about that. What we do know is that we're going to ask Mr. Camarade Ramsden, former Minister of Public Security with the coalition, and he's probably going to tell us how they're moving ahead with that. And of course, Anand Nandlal, he's the Attorney General, former Attorney General also up to 2015. Now he's back again in the same position, been leading the legal fight for his party leading up to or after the elections. Would have taken a tour of his office, a place that he's familiar with, on Carmichael Street, right next door to State House, which is going to be the home, maybe in a few weeks, for Dr. Irfan Ali, President of Guyana. So that is where we are at the moment. We are going to stop taking calls at the moment and maybe talk a little with Yog and myself and about this program here. Elections Watch, it's been 150 days, just over that, I think to be exact, 154 days since we started it, and it has been something that has been good for the radio station. It has been eye-opening experience for myself. I've learned a lot from not only your people, but of course from Dr. Yog Mahadeo as my co-host. It's steady, been very prompt, maybe a few minutes late per day. That's okay. We are all very busy doing what we have to do. We meet lots of wonderful persons. That's not going to stop, because as far as this it is concerned, Kaicho Radio will continue to bring you maybe a different format, community outreach, whatever we want to call it. But it is going to be, in essence, a call-in program. Yog is going to be here with us from time to time when his time permits. And of course, Yog, as we say goodbye, maybe some closing comments for us, for the people of Guyana, for elections COVID-19 watch.
Yes, Leonard, it's been a pleasure to be here, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll tell you, if it was up to Mr. Leonard Gildarie, we would have been continuing our program because it's worked well. There's been good synergy, there's been good energies and positive vibes here between all of you and us here in studio, with the guys here, the Kaito radio team and so forth. It's been a pleasure, and I've enjoyed interacting with persons. There have been times that I've certainly spoken out a bit harshly, and those would have been times. No excuses are being offered, but those would have been times when I felt people were really abusing a situation. I've held for one thing, Leonard, and that is democracy. I believe that after an election there must be a declaration, and there must be a declaration that is based on the SOPs, and that this election is behind us now. What the recount and everything sought to do, and what it did do, was to reaffirm the SOPs. Now we're going to have an elections petition, but this election is now behind us. I would want to dare, I would want to challenge, I would want to beg, I would want to plead with APNU AFC. Go through with your election petition. I want to see what's there, Leonard. For 150 days, we've been taking down every dance route you could think of, every footpath you could think of. I want to see that. I will support them going to a judge with their elections petition, and I want to see all of those SOPs, all of them. So this country is going to look forward to see the drama of the elections petition, and maybe that's where you and I will get back together again to talk about the elections petition. So Leonard, it's been a pleasure to be here with you, and certainly Elections Watch. The elections are over. There is a new government in place, and we want to say a goodbye to everybody here from the Elections Watch team. Of course, programs are going to continue in one way, shape, or form. And we look forward to having your company with us in room 592 as we continue the discussion there, Leonard.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Always been a dear friend, willing ear he's always lent to whenever I have to ask him some weird advice. But that's okay. What is important is, like I said before, it is not about Yog and Gildarie. It's not about Kaito Radio or Kaito News. It's about you, the people of Guyana. What we want to say to you is that we have the power within our hands. We have to take it, start looking out for our country, our neighborhood, how we care for our surroundings, our environment, how we respond to our leaders, how we understand the powers that we have within our hands, within our votes, and how we dispense such authority that we have, we understand that we have, to the leaders, and let them understand that we understand our powers as well. It's all going to play out well if we start doing the correct thing, which is start treating this country as if it is our business, that we want to see the best for it. We want it to be long. We want to leave a legacy for our children. We want to ensure that whatever resources that we have, that all benefit from it, not one set of people. We don't want to see an entire upper class being created while the poor people at the bottom there getting the drops or none at all. So thank you very much for being with us, Elections and COVID-19 Watch. We are going to continue to bring it safe. Dr. Yog Mahadeo and myself, we have had lots of good times with you guys. It's been a pleasure serving the people of Guyana, and we will continue to do what we can using this medium, and of course through our Kaito newspaper as well. We are not going to shift for a mandate from what we understand our role to be in this wonderful country of ours. So thank you very much, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and of course to all persons who have joined us, have been joining us from across Guyana, and of course right across the world, Middle East, so the Caribbean there, North America, Canada, New York, right across the US, Canada, and of course Europe and the Middle East there. Take care, have a blessed day, and be safe.
COVID-19 tips sponsored by Dex Soap. 1. Practice social distancing. 2. Wear your mask when leaving the house. 3. Wash your hands regularly for 20 seconds using our Dex Soap. 4. Cover your nose and mouth with a disposable tissue or flex elbow when you cough or sneeze. Choose Deck Soap for that extra cleanliness. Deck Soap is affordable and available nationwide.
Kite Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kite Radio.
I disinfect